The rain came down in sheets that morning, not the gentle kind that sings you awake, the kind that bites through your coat and settles in your bones. It streaked down the courthouse windows in crooked rivers, each drop a reminder that some days are not meant to be kind. Inside courtroom 2B, the air was heavy. It smelled faintly of varnished wood and bitter coffee that had been reheated too many times. Whispers floated through the room like small secrets, and the steady shuffle of papers was the only thing that dared interrupt them. At the defendant's table sat Maria Torres. Her coat was frayed, the hem stitched by her own hands where the fabric had given up. Her dark hair was pulled back, not for style, but to keep it out of her tired face. Her eyes darted to the door again and again, as if the right person might walk in and change everything. She clutched a folder tight against her chest. Inside was her life. Pay stubs, notices, a desperate letter to her landlord, and a stack of documents she prayed would matter in the quiet between cases. She could almost hear her daughter's small voice. She had left Sophia with a neighbor who promised to watch her until Maria returned. Maria wasn't here for a crime. She was here for her home, the one-bedroom apartment where Sophia's crayon drawings colored the refrigerator door, the place where love tried to patch over what money couldn't. Her landlord had raised the rent without warning, raised it so high she could never catch up. And when she asked for time, he answered with an eviction notice. Now, he sat just feet away, a man in a tailored suit with a lawyer at his side, one whose polished shoes probably cost more than Maria made in a week. The door to the judge's chambers opened. Judge Alan Wexler entered with the slow, deliberate steps of someone who expected the room to wait for him. His glasses hung low on his nose, and his eyes scanned the docket without looking at the people attached to it. He had the kind of face that looked carved from stone and a voice to match. Case number 482, he announced. Torres versus Fielding Properties. Maria stood, knees weak but spine straight. She began to speak, her voice trembling but clear. She told him about the rent increase, about her attempts to negotiate, about how she just needed more time, so her daughter wouldn't lose the only home she knew. Wexler's hand went up like a stop sign. "Miss Torres," he said, "this court is not here to entertain emotional appeals. You signed a lease. You agreed to the terms. The law is the law." Maria tried again. "Your Honor, please, my daughter." "This court," Wexler interrupted sharply, "is not here to hear sob stories. The contract is valid. The plaintiff is within his rights." His voice didn't rise, but it carried the weight of a verdict that had already been decided. "In accordance with the documents and statutes before me, I rule in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has 7 days to vacate the premises." The gavel struck wood, and the sound traveled straight into Maria's chest, heavy and final. She gathered her papers without a word. She caught the small, satisfied smile on the landlord's lawyer's lips. When she walked outside, the rain didn't care that she was crying. That night, Maria sat at her kitchen table. The eviction notice lay in front of her like an accusation she couldn't argue with. Sophia was asleep in the next room, her tiny breath steady and warm. Maria had no family to call, no savings to cushion the fall. But she had one thing left, something she'd carried through every slammed door and every no she'd ever been handed. A stubbornness that whispered, learn their rules, beat them at their own game. The next months were relentless. She lost the apartment. She moved into a friend's basement room, where the air smelled of damp concrete. She took every shift she could get at the diner, until her feet burned and her hands ached. But every night, after Sophia fell asleep, Maria studied. She borrowed law books from the library. She took free online courses in legal procedure and tenant rights. She learned how to read contracts like they were maps. She learned the language of courtrooms, the one they used to dismiss her so easily. At first, it was just for survival. But then she saw other tenants in the diner, holding the same notices she'd once held. She saw the fear in their eyes, and she knew it wasn't enough to just protect herself. She wanted to protect them, too. 5 years passed. The courthouse hadn't changed. Same marble floors. Same flickering light over the clerk's desk. Same heavy air that knew too many secrets. But Maria Torres had changed. Her frayed coat was gone, replaced by a navy blazer that fit like it belonged. Her eyes were sharp now, steady, watchful, unafraid. She carried a leather briefcase, not a crumpled folder, and in her office at home, framed in simple black, was her bar admission certificate. She wasn't here as a defendant. She was here as Assistant District Attorney Maria Torres. Her first major case landed on her desk on a Thursday morning. Tenant harassment, a landlord accused of illegal evictions and intimidation. When she opened the file, her breath caught. Plaintiff's counsel, Alan Wexler, the same man who had dismissed her, the same voice that had told her the court wasn't here for sob stories. Only now, he was no longer a judge. He was a lawyer defending a landlord. The trial began under a gray sky that threatened rain. Maria stood at the prosecutor's table. Wexler entered with the same deliberate steps, the same carved expression. He didn't recognize her. Not yet. Her opening statement was precise, deliberate. She laid out the evidence, illegal notices, forged documents, threats to tenants. She called witnesses, single mothers, elderly residents, veterans. Each one told a story that echoed her own from years before. By the third day, Wexler finally looked at her for more than a moment, his brow furrowed. Recognition flashed across his face like lightning in a dark sky. He remembered, and for the first time his composure cracked. "You," he murmured under his breath. Maria didn't blink. "Mr. Wexler," she said evenly, "please answer the question." By the last day, the case was no longer in question. The jury found in favor of the tenants. Damages awarded. Harassment stopped. When the verdict was read, Maria thought about that basement room, about the diner shifts, about the law book stacked beside her bed. Every step had led her here. Outside, the rain had stopped. Tenants hugged her, thanked her, called her their voice. Wexler passed by slowly. No smirk, only a quiet nod that carried the weight of regret. Maria turned to the people she'd fought for. "This isn't just your win," she told them. "It's a win for everyone who's ever been told their story doesn't matter. Because it does. You matter." She walked down the courthouse steps, and there was Sophia, now 10, waiting for her. Her daughter ran into her arms. "Did you win, Mom?" Maria smiled through tears. "Yes, baby. We won." She looked back at the courthouse, the same building where she'd once been silenced, now the place where she made sure others were heard. Because the truth is, it's not just about one case or one victory. It's about every voice that deserves to be heard, every story that deserves respect. Next time, it might not be a stranger in a worn coat. It might be a friend, a neighbor, or someone you love. So if you believe stories like this matter, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and let's keep the conversation going. Because next time, it might not be her, it might be someone you know. But Maria Torres had changed. Her frayed coat was replaced by a tailored navy blazer. Her tired eyes were now sharp, steady, unflinching. She carried a leather briefcase, not a folder of crumpled papers. And hanging in her office at home was her bar admission certificate. She wasn't here as a defendant. She was here as Assistant District Attorney Maria Torres. Her first big case was a tenant harassment suit, a landlord accused of illegal evictions and intimidation. When she opened the file, the name froze her in place. Plaintiff's counsel, Alan Wexler, the same man who had dismissed her all those years ago. Only now, he was no longer a judge. He was a lawyer defending a landlord. The trial began on a rainy Thursday. Maria stood at the prosecutor's table. Wexler walked in with the confidence of a man certain of his win. He didn't recognize her. Not yet. She opened with evidence. Stacks of it. Eviction notices that violated state law. Witnesses who told stories of intimidation and threats. Every testimony mirrored her own from years ago. By the third day, Wexler looked at her for a little too long. A flicker of something passed over his face. Recognition. Memory. Regret. "You," he murmured, almost under his breath. Maria didn't blink. "Mr. Wexler, please answer question." By the final day, the jury had no doubts. They found in favor of the tenants. Damages awarded. Practices stopped. As the verdict was read, Maria thought about the basement room, the diner shifts, the law book stacked beside her bed. Every step that had led her here. Outside, the rain had stopped. Tenants hugged her, thanked her, called her their voice. Wexler passed by slowly. No smirk this time, only a quiet nod. Maria turned back to the people she had fought for. This isn't just a win for you, she said. It's a win for everyone who's ever been told their story doesn't matter. Because it does. You matter. She walked down the courthouse steps and saw Sophia waiting at the bottom. 10 years old now, eyes bright with pride. Did you win, Mom? She asked. Maria smiled through tears. Yes, baby. We won. She looked back at the courthouse, the place where she had once been silenced, the place where she now made sure others were heard. Because the truth is, it's not just about one case or one victory. It's about every voice that deserves to be heard, every story that deserves respect. Next time, it might not be a stranger in a worn coat. It might be a friend, a neighbor, or someone you love. So if you believe stories like this matter, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and let's keep the conversation going. Because next time, it might not be her, it might be someone you know.